Folks, always be on the lookout for incidents with police that can potentially get out of hand. I came close the other day. I received 2 parking tickets 2 days in a row, one on August 21st, 2024, and the other on August 22nd, 2024. This one is from the 21st, and as you guys can see, the amount of this parking ticket is $750. Now let me be perfectly clear. It was definitely my fault that I caught these 2 tickets, so I'm not griping about that. But the amount of this parking ticket is a little on the high side, and several people agree with that. As you guys can imagine, it's very difficult to find parking for a tractor and a 53-foot trailer, especially in congested areas. Now, as luck would have it, the next day I caught another parking ticket. Again, 100% my fault. I'm just trying to find a place to park my rig in a congested area. But in this case, I came into direct contact with this officer right here. And this is where things could have gone horribly wrong for me. Now, I gotta mention, a lot happened leading up to this incident that gave it the potential to get ugly. For example, the day before when I got that first ticket, I had been held up at the receiver. It took an excessive amount of time to get my trailer unloaded. When they finally got done, I was out of drive time and needed to find somewhere to park quickly so I can get some rest before picking up my next load. Now, when I went to pick up my next load, that was even more of a mess. When I got to the shipper, they had loaded the wrong trailer. So I had to sit there and wait for them to switch the freight from the wrong trailer to the correct trailer. That took a few hours. When they got done, I left with the trailer, but en route, my tractor broke down. So I had to sit on the side of the road and wait for repairs. That took a few more hours. By the time I got to the receiver, I was so late with that trailer that they had canceled the load. So now I couldn't even get unloaded. So I had to sit there and wait for instructions from dispatch on what to do with that trailer. By the time I got instructions, guess what? I was out of drive time. Now I had to find somewhere to park to take my 10-hour break. En route to parking for my 10-hour break, I was hungry. With all the chaos, I hadn't eaten. So I decided to stop real quick and get something to eat. And this is when that second cop pulled up, and he wasn't trying to hear any of it. Once I saw the patrol car pull up behind my truck, I ran out the restaurant, leaving my food behind. As I approached the officer, the first thing I said was, "Officer, I'm so sorry for parking here." Then I proceeded to explain to him the reasons why I did, telling him about the complications with that load and the craziness that went on for the past couple of days. As I was explaining this to him, he stopped me and then he asked me, "Why didn't you park in the restaurant parking lot?" I said, "Officer, I was gonna park in there, but then I saw this sign in the parking lot. So then I figured, it's probably not a good idea for me to park in there because I don't want to risk my truck getting booted or, something else happening. So I figured, let me just park out here for now. I'll only be a few minutes. I'll run in, grab my food, and I'll be on my way." So then he says, "I need your license and registration." At this point, I realized he's going to give me a ticket. So then I said, "Officer, please don't give me a ticket because I just caught a $750 ticket yesterday. Is there any way that you could possibly cut me a break on this?" His response to that was, "Okay, I could just take you to jail." Now at this point, I realized I need to just comply with this officer, do whatever he tells me so I don't turn a bad situation into a nightmare. Now I go back inside the truck to look for the paperwork. Now keep in mind, I'm still in shock over that $750 ticket that I received the day before. And now I'm about to get another ticket. And I'm like, God only knows how much this ticket is gonna be. So now I'm having trouble finding the paperwork for the truck. I recently switched trucks and the compartments inside this truck are different. So I'm having trouble finding the paperwork. So he comes over to the truck and asks me what the problem was. And I said, "Officer, I'm having trouble finding the paperwork. I guess, by me getting that ticket yesterday and now I'm getting another ticket, it's kind of got me drawing a blank. I'm having trouble figuring out where the paperwork is." So then he looks at me and says, "Listen, I understand you got a story, but I'm going to make this easy on myself. Either you give me the paperwork or I'm going to tow the semi." My response to that was, okay, officer, I'll find it. Now, while I was searching for those documents, he went and ran my license. Thank God I was able to find a binder that contained everything pertaining to the truck inside it by the time he came back, and I was able to hand it to him. As a matter of fact, that's him holding the binder right there. I showed him where the registration card was, I showed him where the insurance card was, and I showed him where all the permits are. And this is when things started to get a little bit weird. He takes the binder and he flips through it a little bit. Then he looks up at me and says, okay, now I need you to go and stand at the back of the truck. And without hesitation, I said, sure, officer, because remember, this man from the very beginning made it abundantly clear that he had no problems escalating this situation if need be. And I didn't want to give him a reason to do that. So as I'm walking to the back of the truck, I remember thinking, okay, this can't be good. Now, I know my license is clean, so I'm wondering if maybe he found a problem with the paperwork for the truck. So I'm like, well, you know what? At this point, it doesn't make sense worrying about it. It is what it is. So let me just do whatever he tells me to do. Okay, so now I'm standing behind the truck. I'm in between my truck and his patrol car. That's the officer getting ready to get back into the patrol car to run the paperwork. Now, as I'm standing out there waiting, the thought came to my mind that, you know, I've never been asked to stand at the back of any vehicle that I was operating. So I couldn't help but wonder what the problem was. Guys, all of a sudden, this man gets out the car and tells me to get into the patrol car. I don't want to get into this man's car. So I guess he must have saw the look on my face, and he said, well, you're not under arrest or anything, but I don't want you in the truck because I feel that it gives you an unfair advantage over me, and I don't want you standing out there. So I need you to get into the patrol car. So I'm saying to myself, unfair advantage? What is going through this man's mind? Does he think I'm going to try to do something to him? So now I don't like the way this thing is headed. But again, I don't want to give this guy a reason to complicate my life. So I said to myself, Greg, you have the camera. I had a camera on me. He didn't know I had the camera. And this is how I got this footage. So I said, you have the camera. Just make sure the camera's rolling and get in the car. And that's exactly what I did. Now, guys, I wanted to include this picture. This is the moment when the officer came out and told me to get into the patrol car, and that's why he's pointing to the other side. Again, I had to make sure my camera was rolling because sometimes that camera cuts off and I think it's recording and it's not. Once I saw that it was recording, I got into the car. I don't think I would have gotten in there without that camera because I figured since I have it and I'm recording, if something happens in that car, at least I have some footage. Now guys, here's a short clip of me getting into the patrol car. That's me checking my camera to make sure that it's recording before I get in. And now I'm getting in. Okay, I'm in the car. Notice how I try my best to keep the camera focused on the officer. Now, once inside the patrol car, the officer proceeded to recite a list of charges that he could potentially hit me with. But very weird, kind of like talking to himself, but I'm sitting right there so I can hear him. One of the things I remember him saying was a Class A misdemeanor, and I looked it up. A Class A misdemeanor is the most serious type of misdemeanor in Indiana and can result in up to 1 year in jail and a fine of up to $5,000. Some examples of Class A misdemeanors include battery resulting in bodily injury, theft of property, carrying a firearm without a license, and resisting law enforcement. Now I wonder, had I not gotten into the car when he told me to, if that may have constituted resisting law enforcement. But thank God we didn't have to go down that road.